So we are trying to determine how, in the face of rejection of the concept of, or the realist concept of objective validity, we can salvage the concept of validity from within, so to speak, subjectively. Subjective here is what we are looking for, is intersubjectivity. That is, intersubjectivity is from within. By intersubjectivity we mean from within an argumentative situation from a participant's perspective. So how can we put limits or specify the conditions of this argument so that from the perspective of participants from within argumentation is not merely intersubjective, but this intersubjectivity is connected to some sort of de-transcendentalized objectivity. So that's the object, or that's the objective. And I would assume that Habermas and Klein agrees on this objective. But what Habermas is criticizing here, Klein, for the way he tries to resolve or realize this objective. And Habermas's critique seems to be that what Klein does is try to come up with the laws of argumentation. Empirical laws of argumentation. By observing the regularities or law-like regularities within an argumentation. And what Habermas is saying is what Klein is doing is, like we empirical regularities in the external world, so that they are noticed by physicists, for example, and on the basis of that they discover physical laws. Klein takes this model and apply it to, according to Habermas, apply it to the participant's situation within an argument from the perspective of the participants in the argument. So what he tries to, according to Habermas, discover is regularities within argument. Regularities which might even be beyond the intention and even the inclinations of the participant. Just because they are within an argumentative situation, some things happen. The A, B, C, D, different people arguing about something, discussing something from a participant's perspective, and you observe them, I don't know, from outside or from inside, self-reflectively, and see if there are regularities in argument 1, 2, 3, the regularities which might give us some clue as to the laws of argumentation, which operate within an argumentative situation beyond the inclination and the will of the participants. These regularities, because they are within the participant's situation, within the argumentative situation, these regularities, so we are looking for those regularities only which are connected to the logic of argumentation, not anything which is external. And that seems to, and Klein's focus seems to be, according to Habermas, on the analysis of what appears to, the phenomenology of, appear to the participants. What appear to the participants within argumentation as internal connection between valid utterances. So probably by observing a lot of different argumentative situations, you try to observe regularities. What are those regularities? What are those constants which operate or which appear to participants that makes an utterance valid as against that makes an utterance invalid? And probably what he is trying to discover in this way is rules based on these regularities, which will help us to differentiate between two types of influences within argument. External influence, which is not related to argument, so that should be cancelled, and influences which are actually internal or internal to validity. So the hope is that those rules would be the guiding principle through which we can differentiate between two types of effect and then cancel the external effects and enhance the internal effects, the effects which are related to the validity. I think Habermas' objection would not be to those rules, but how those rules are conceived. For Habermas, those rules cannot be empirical laws, even if they are empirical laws from within or empirical laws based on the phenomenology of the participant's perspective as it is related to the internal connection between the validity claims and the validity itself. What Habermas would rather look is the conditions which are, or rules which are non-empirical, and for him those would be based on specifying the argumentative situation, the conditions, and also would be based on the linguistic conditions. Argumentative situation related condition and linguistic condition which are more likely to lead us to minimizing the external influence and maximizing the validity related influences on an argumentative situation. That's my impression so far. Okay, let's